Welcome to our presentation on Piaget and Vygotsky by
Brittany,
Kaylee,
Kira,
and Tammy.
So the big question that we want you guys to think about while watching our presentation is to what extent are Piaget and Vygotsky's theories present in the new paradigm of teaching and assessment?
So first, let's start with Piaget's theory. Jean Piaget had a constructivist perspective, which means that he saw learning as construction. He believed that change and transformation produces knowledge, which he called operative knowledge. Piaget grew an understanding that students had to cognitively be ready to learn. He stated that learning is subordinate to development and not vice versa. Piaget believed in cognitive structures, which he defined as basic interconnected psychological systems that enable people to process information by connecting it with prior knowledge and experience, finding patterns and relationships, identifying rules, and generating abstract principles relevant in different applications. Piaget believed that people needed to adapt to their environment. He discovered two processes of adaptation. The first is called assimilation, which is the process of using the environment and transforming it to fit into a person's pre-existing cognitive structures. When people encounter something new, they apply what they already know to make sense of it. For example, when a child sees a zebra for the first time, he or she may call it a horse because it has 4 legs like a horse and it walks like a horse. The child will apply his knowledge of what a horse looks like to the image of the zebra and make sense of what this new animal is. The second process of adaptation is accommodation. This is the process of changing cognitive structures in order to accept new knowledge from the environment. So, if we continue with the first example of the child seeing a zebra for the first time, in this stage, the child will begin to consider the new properties of the zebra that he sees and compare it to that of a horse. He may call it a horse with stripes until the child is taught the name of the new animal. When this happens, he has accommodated the information and now has a new schema for the zebra. So when the child finds a balance between assimilation and accommodation, he has reached equilibrium. In other words, this is when a person's schema is in balance with the external world. What is a schema anyway? A schema is the mental basis for analyzing and responding to new related stimuli.
Piaget's theory identified four stages of cognitive development that every person goes through in the same order. Each stage is associated with a different age. However, the ages are only guidelines. Some people may show characteristics of more than one stage at a time, depending on the type of situation they are in. The first stage is the sensory motor stage. This is an early stage in which babies thinking revolves around the senses: seeing, hearing, moving, touching, and tasting. Infants develop object permanence during this stage. Out of sight, out of mind. The object permanence is the idea that objects exist whether seen or not. They are aware that if a ball rolls away, they can look for it because even though they can't see it, they are aware that it has just changed locations. Children in this stage are egocentric, which means that they are unaware of people's feelings and reactions around them. They are not selfish, but rather lacking the understanding that others do not have the same perspective as they do. Goal-directed actions begin to be seen during this stage. Goal-directed actions are the ideas that children will develop a scheme to achieve a goal. For example, a 2-year-old child may develop a scheme, steps to accomplish a goal, for which they take their toys out of a toy box. They will know to take the lid off, flip the container upside down, and shake out the toys. This is usually developed toward the later end of the sensory motor stage.
The second stage is the pre-operational stage, which occurs between ages 2 and 7. This is the stage where children begin to move towards operational thinking, which is the ability to carry out and reverse actions mentally rather than just physically. However, they are not able to master this ability yet. Semiotic function is developed at this stage. This is when children use symbols, pictures, gestures, or signs to represent a different object or action. For example, a child who does not yet speak uses actions to communicate, such as mimicking holding a cup and drinking from it to show that they are thirsty. This shows that the children are aware that they know what these objects are for. During this stage, rapid development of language occurs also, and the vocabulary of a child increases from 200 to 2,000 words. Children are not able to engage in reversible thinking at this stage. This is why they cannot understand conservation. Conservation is the idea that the object characteristics are the same, whether or not the physical appearance of the arrangement of them changes. For example, if you have two balls of clay of the same amount, but one is rolled and the other is just in a clump, students do not understand that they are the same, even though they might be in different shapes. Children at this age continue to be egocentric by thinking that everyone has the same perspective as they do.
The third stage, the concrete operational stage, occurs between the ages of 7 and 11 and is often characterized with hands-on thinking and the ability to understand the principle of conservation. There are three main attributes which are associated with this stage. The first is classification. An example of classification is when the child understands that they can be both an Albertan and a Canadian at the same time. The second is reversibility. This is when the child understands that when their favorite ball is deflated, it is not gone forever, but can be reinflated and played with once more. The third is seriation. At this stage, the child is also still unable to solve hypothetical and abstract problems if they need several factors to be coordinated at once.
Stage 4, which generally occurs between age 12 to adulthood, was named the formal operational stage. Although some students will remain at the concrete operational stage throughout their school years or throughout life, most students will advance to the formal operational stage when they are faced with problems which they cannot solve using concrete operations. During this stage, adolescents develop the skill of hypothetico-deductive reasoning, which is when they are able to consider a hypothetical situation and use deductive reasoning to come up with a solution or a possibility. For example, a child who has not yet reached the formal operational stage would not be able to consider the possibilities of how life would be different without sleep. An adolescent who has achieved this stage would be able to consider the question and would be able to formulate possible effects this may have on society. Another skill developed during this stage is abstract formal operational thinking. This is when adolescents are able to take abstract concepts or thoughts and make hypothetical solutions or assumptions. An example is in high school math, when the students have to solve for x. Adolescents during this stage engage in adolescent egocentrism. Adolescents now can accept that others may have different views or perspectives from their own, but they focus on their own ideas and spend a lot of their time examining these beliefs and attitudes. Although everyone has to achieve the first three stages, not everyone reaches the fourth stage. Since the fourth stage is needed to reach a post-secondary level of education, students must practice solving hypothetical problems and using formal scientific reasoning during high school. Even with this practice, only 30 to 40% of high school students are able to perform Piaget's formal operational tasks.
All right, so on to Vygotsky's theory now. Vygotsky believed that every function in a child's development appears twice, first on the social level between people and later on the individual level within the child. For example, when learning to speak, the child first hears the parent or another person say the word and will copy them. Later on, the child will repeat the word. Teachers and adults encourage the development of children's cognitive development. According to Vygotsky, creativity can be understood as a process which develops through the interactions with other objects and subjects in social and cultural context. A child's imagination develops very early on and is a fundamental component to their development. Vygotsky believes the development of thoughts are related to the integration between concrete and abstract thinking. As a child grows and develops, their thoughts change from childhood games to adolescent fantasies, intellect, and imagination. They come closer together. At this stage, thinking in metaphors become possible.
At every stage in a child's development, there are certain problems that they are on the verge of being able to solve. To have the students successfully solve these problems, they need to be given some kind of cues or reminders to help them recall the details or steps. Vygotsky called this the zone of proximal development, or ZPD. The prompts that are given help to have the student achieve these tasks can be something called scaffolding. The support that is given is gradually reduced until the students reach the point of being able to complete this task on their own.
Vygotsky believed that the student alone could not reach their full potential without the assistance and guidance of a family member, teacher, peer, or others in the community who could help provide the scaffolding needed to work through the problems presented to them. For Vygotsky, there are 4 strategies that should be integrated into the scaffolding. Vygotsky believed very strongly in building and tailoring scaffolding to the student's needs and abilities. When a student first begins a task or topic, it is important to provide models, prompts, coaching, and feedback. As the student's competencies and knowledge grows, the teacher then provides less support and more opportunity for the student to work independently. When providing scaffolding, it is also important to provide the student with access to the necessary tools that will help support their thinking and growth. By providing the student with organizational strategies, research tools, and technology, the teacher can help the student to build their competencies in the subject.
Please enjoy this interview with Miss Barkley as she shares how she incorporates these theories into her grade 3 classroom.
Today I'm hoping you can explain to me how you implement Vygotsky and Piaget's theories into your grade 3 classroom.
Alright, in my grade 3 classroom, I implement Piaget's theory by focusing on a lot of group work. So I, as a teacher, explain to the students what I'm looking for and give them an example and then have them do it as a group via centers or whatever for that one. And then for Vygotsky, I do think aloud, so I have the students work on reading the steps out loud and talking through the steps.
Wow, that's interesting. Thank you.
And now, please enjoy a second interview with Miss Constantine as she shares how she incorporates these theories into her grade 7 classroom.
I'm interested to know how you implement both Vygotsky and Piaget's theory in your grade 7 classroom.
Sure, Brittany, I'd love to tell you. So first of all, for Piaget's theory, I'm definitely more of a guide on the side rather than a sage on the stage.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so I really like to guide my students, but I let them create meaning of their own work. So it's very learner-centered.
That's fantastic.
And I use a lot of examples that my students can really relate to so they can understand concepts better.
Wow, okay. And the other one, Vygotsky?
For Vygotsky, I pair up my students with older, more knowledgeable students so that they can teach them what they know. And I also use a lot of formal instruction so students can learn from me as their teacher, the more knowledgeable one.
Well, I feel much more knowledgeable after this. Thank you very much.
And lastly, enjoy this last interview with Miss Alty, a grade 11 teacher who will share her strategies for incorporating these theories.
How do you implement Vygotsky and Piaget's theories in your grade 11 classroom?
Well, in my classroom, I implement Piaget by using a lot of visual aids in my class, so things like charts, graphs, posters, anything like that. And for Vygotsky, I implement his theories by encouraging a lot of group discussion and encouraging my students to get out into the community and really talk to their elders and their peers and that kind of stuff.
Wow, that's fantastic.
All right, to clarify what we mean about new paradigm, it involves group work, flexible teaching styles, self-assessment, student involvement, time to discover, and focus on deeper learning. For more examples, they are also listed in your eval textbooks.
So just to recap what our big question is, if you choose to look into this further, we're curious to what extent are Piaget and Vygotsky's theories present in the new paradigm of teaching and assessment?
And last, here's 5 tips that we have for effective presentations. The first is keep it simple. Number 2, know the audience. 3, have something interesting to say. 4, use a compelling voice. 5, use images when possible. Here's also a list of references if you wish to look further into the subject.
Thanks for watching!